Good evening, and here is the news on NTA International. I am Vivian Izadifi. Let's take you through the headlines. A member of the Inaba and former Minister of Special Duties and Intergovernmental Affairs, Tanimu Turaki, emerges national chairman of the People's Democratic Party, PDP. Department of State Services arrests suspected major arms suppliers, Musa Abubakar, linked to Plateau and Northern attacks. Plus, United Nations reminds people globally on need for mutual respect as it celebrates International Day for Tolerance. Now in the news in full. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has dispatched a senior aide to Plateau State as part of effort to restore calm and promote harmony amid recurring communal tensions. Dr. Abiodun Esen, Senior Special Assistant to the President on Community Engagement for the North Central Zone, arrived in the state for a two-day mission. Her itinerary included engagements with Christian leaders, Fulani community representatives, and a town hall meeting in Jos attended by delegates from various local government areas, traditional rulers, women, and youth leaders. In a statement by the Special Advisor to the President, Information and Strategy, Bayo Onanuga, says the discussions focused on bolstering community-based peace mechanisms and fostering coexistence among diverse groups. In Barkin-Ladi, Esiet paid a courtesy visit to Reverend Ezekiel Dachomo, chairman of the Regional Church Council and a prominent voice for Christian communities in the state. The meeting emphasized faith-based leadership's role in advancing peace, unity, and social development. Esiet, accompanied by Dachomo, also interacted with widows, relaying President Tinubu's commitments to ethnic reconciliation. The emissary further held talks with Fulani leaders in Barkin-Ladi to encourage dialogue between pastoralists and farmers, underscoring the federal government's dedication to inclusive stakeholder engagement. The Department of State Services, DSS, has arrested a suspected major arms supplier, Musa Abubakar, in a targeted operation that crippled a key weapons supply network tied to terrorist attacks in Plateau State and other parts of northern Nigeria. According to a DSS statement, Abubakar was intercepted on November 12, 2025, after weeks of surveillance and a coordinated raid on his arms manufacturing workshop in the Mr. Ali area of Basa, local government area of Plateau State. He was found with improvised explosive device, components, chemicals, and equipment used in fabricating sophisticated weapons. The DSS says Abubakar has confessed to producing and distributing high-caliber firearms to armed groups responsible for repeated violent attacks across the region. It says these breakthroughs underscore its renewed commitment to dismantling terrorism networks and enhancing national security. The former Minister of Special Duties and Intergovernmental Affairs, Tanimu Turaki, SAN, has emerged as the national chairman of the People's Democratic Party. This followed the stepping down of his opponent, Senator Yakubu Lado. Grace Anyaleke reports that the national chairman has called on party members to bury the hatchet and join hands for the overall success of the party.
And defend the constitution of the People's Democratic Party and of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
The convention, which held amidst conflicting court cases, the national chairman, Barrister Tanimu Turaki, SAN, says, would toll a path of reconciliation. As the supreme and controlling power of the party, the convention also saw the expulsion of 11 members, a decision which was criticized to further deepen the unending crisis of the PDP.
We will in whatever we do, there is fairness, there is transparency, there is equity, and there is justice. Very soon, we shall be rolling out what our guiding principles will be and models of president for church the same.
Determined to bring back aggrieved members into the party, the National Working Committee reiterates its commitment to building a democratic party for future contests.
If we do not have a vibrant opposition, then you would not have, you just have elections that will become electoral authoritarianism, where you have elections, but those elections do not help with democratic consolidation. The legal tussles that have preceded this convention actually will develop the jurisprudence of election matters. The sad part is that it may attempt to bring the court into contempt in the eye of the ordinary Nigerian.
The convention ended with a motion stating that the elective National Convention is within the scope of the internal affairs of the party, to which the courts have no jurisdiction. In Ibadan, Grace Ayoleke, NTA News.
November 16 every year is celebrated as International Day for Tolerance. The day's message is a reminder on the people of the earth that tolerance is more than just passively accepting others, but also requires action, which calls for building societies based on respect for human rights and for investing in people through education, inclusion, and opportunities. Austin Aebe reports.
The United Nations founded the day in 1996. Tolerance is respect, acceptance, and appreciation of the rich diversity of the world's cultures, forms of expression, and ways of being human. The theme for the International Day of Tolerance 2025 therefore focuses on promoting respect, acceptance, and understanding of diversity to combat intolerance. The 2025 theme emphasized building alliances and movements to foster social cohesion and mutual understanding in the face of division and conflict. It is to also highlight the importance of tolerance as the bedrock of a functioning society, especially in a globalized world where diverse communities interact. The goal is to raise public awareness of the dangers of intolerance and to renew commitment to tolerance promotion and education. Peace expert says this International Day for Tolerance calls for a pledge to mobilize against intolerance and for the most vulnerable communities and for all humanity to work together to promote tolerance.
The International Day of Tolerance was set aside so that we always remind each other that we always have differences, whether in belief, in culture, in even perception. But how do we manage it? We celebrate it, we appreciate it, we give listening, we give respect, we give attention, we give value to that aspect you are bringing that I do not share or I do not know. You also give respect to that version or that angle I'm coming that you do not know or you do not share. When people start doing that, then the world will be a better place for us to live. I've always cited this example that even in the home, we go into marriages. We cannot be of the same view with my wife. There are things we don't agree. But when we respect each other despite those disagreements, when we tolerate each other despite those areas we don't agree, then our home will be sweet, our environment, our children will grow in a peaceful environment.
The major characteristics of tolerance include respect for differences, patience with others, acceptance of diverse beliefs, openness to new ideas, and empathy.
This day is not coming badly, it's actually coming at a time that we have issues in Nigeria that just centered on tolerance. How do we tolerate each other? How do we appreciate each other? How do we respect each other? How do we understand that the other man whose view is different from your own is not an enemy? Or how do you understand that the other person whose culture, whose belief is not the same like your belief, is not an enemy? He is just believing differently. Any religious leader who preach contrary to tolerance, contrary to love, contrary to acceptance, contrary to unity, is not preaching religion, because every religion encourages tolerance, encourages faith, or encourages peace, encourages unity.
These characteristics involve acknowledging and appreciating the diversity in cultures, religions, and lifestyles, and interacting with others in a patient and understanding manner. In Abuja, Austin Anyebe, NTA News.
Access to climate finance for Nigerians advanced in Belém, Brazil, where the Green Climate Fund accredited entity, the Development Bank of Nigeria, and international partners guided entrepreneurs on how to secure funding for bankable projects in solar, recycling, clean cooking, gas, and energy transition. Charles Alpha reports.
Nigerians are moving closer to unlocking more finance for clean energy projects and advancing a just energy transition. What is happening here is a practical demonstration of how these funds can be accessed to support real climate solutions. Following its accreditation by the Green Climate Fund, the world's largest climate finance provider for developing countries, the Development Bank of Nigeria has become a direct access entity. This status now allows the Development Bank of Nigeria to draw down up to $250 million, enabling it to channel financing into Nigeria's manufacturing and green sectors.
So what we've done here is to actually speak about what we've done so far since our accreditation, and also what everybody needs to take away in terms of coming up with the projects that we can fund. So we need to understand the framework around which we can fund those projects and how we can partner together to fund those projects in Nigeria. It could be
at a side event at the Nigerian Pavilion in Brazil. Stakeholders explore the opportunities this creates for the country. The Senior Special Assistant to the President on Climate Change, the Development Bank of Nigeria, and global partners outlined how entrepreneurs can secure funding for climate mitigation projects, including solar, recycling, clean cooking, gas, and other green initiatives.
And the next important thing, and please listen to me, it's very important, is the preparation of the project. Because you have a great idea that will change, or resolve one or two environmental issues in Nigeria does not mean the project is fund ready. So the project itself must be fund ready. So things like, what's the climate rationale? What's the mechanics and the modeling of the project in terms of the economics? Is it financially sustainable? What's the social impact? No, there are a lot of things that we need to put together. What's the theory of change on the project? So it's important to put together that documentation that can sell itself, and that takes work. So one of the things we've tried to do is to secure the competence in-house, as well as also the funding required to prepare those projects, such that when we take it to the funders like GCF, it will scale.
The Development Bank of Nigeria, since its accreditation a few years ago, has aligned its strategy with its regulator, the National Council on Climate Change, Nigeria's nationally determined contributions, and the national transition plans. It has also established a dedicated desk for its Green Climate Fund program to fast-track qualifying transactions while mobilizing partner banks to co-fund climate-friendly projects. In Belém, Brazil, Charles Alpha, NTA News.
Meanwhile, every COP presents opportunities not just for world leaders to negotiate tests, but also for climate-vulnerable countries to assess the action that must be taken. In Belém, subnational governments, civil society organizations, and Nigerian lawmakers discussed opportunities, priority areas, and ongoing efforts to tackle climate challenges, especially as they affect women and agriculture. Again, Charles Alpha tells us more.
Northern Nigeria, land degradation and the advancing Sahara deserts are posing threats on communities, while pollution, floods, erosion, and crop losses have continued to undermine livelihoods. But here at COP30 in the Amazonian city of Belém in Brazil, subnational governments, lawmakers, and civil society organizations are not just taking steps to see how they address the issues of climate change. They are learning new ways of dealing with the challenges.
We have been battling, fighting with desert encroachment, desertification in our state. We are here for this COP30 to see that we had a very robust collaboration with various stakeholders in the climate change sector to ensure that we transmit them in our state.
COP30 should be a COP of action. So the expectation from all of us at the end of this COP is to ensure that we have an actionable work plan that will be for the global reduction in climate challenges. It is time for action. No more of the boardroom noise anymore.
COA started the Green Border Sustainability Initiative just in October, and this is to go to our border areas to enlighten our women and youths and also provide them with green skills. So COA is here today at COP30 to promote environmental resilience through large-scale tree planting. We're looking at partnering with the global world, not only in Africa.
And Nigeria is coming from a very strong position of using the Climate Change Act to be able to operate. And then with the presidential authority, I am very confident that we'll be able to consolidate our position such that we will not be exploited.
We already know that COP30 has been branded as Implementation COP, and for some, it is a COP of truth. And as we go into the last lap of COP, that is talking about the last week, this week is going to be decisive. And whatever decisions will be taken here will go a long way in determining how developing countries go about meeting their nationally determined targets. That is, the new updated nationally determined contributions, NDC 3.0. From Belém, Brazil, Charles Alpha, NTA News.
This is the news on NTA International. It's time to take a break. More stories when we return. Please stay tuned. Welcome back. And up next is Global Update with Frama Paini.
Thanks for joining us on Global Update. I am Frama Paini. Pope Leo XIV decries poverty, urging world leaders and Catholics to reach out to marginalized people as the Church celebrates a jubilee of the poor. The Pope warns against the myth of well-being and progress that does not take everyone into account. The U.S. Pope has made social justice a key theme of his papacy, now in his 6th month since being made head of the world's Catholics in May following the death of Pope Francis. The Church, Leo said during a mass at St. Peter's Basilica, is still wounded by old and new forms of poverty, but hopes to be mother of the poor, a place of welcome and justice. Sunday marked a special jubilee of the poor, one of many of such celebrations during the Holy Year, which has drawn pilgrims from around the world. It fell on the World Day of the Poor, an annual observance begun by Pope Francis in 2017. Following Mass, Pope Leo was to attend a lunch at the Vatican with a group of homeless people, refugees and the disabled, while other community events to help the poor were planned around home. Beyond poverty itself, he cited many moral and spiritual situations of poverty resulting in loneliness. He urged believers to be attentive to others, reaching out to the marginalized and becoming witnesses of God's tenderness. Following his Angelus prayer to the crowds in St. Peter's Square, the Pope denounced persecution and attacks against Christians around the world, including Bangladesh, Mozambique and Sudan, and cited fresh violence in the ongoing conflicts in the Democratic Republic of Congo. Pope Leo XIV also calls for a just and lasting peace during the Angelus prayer following the latest bombings in Ukraine, including the capital Kyiv. Now, Chileans began voting Sunday in elections dominated by rising crime and immigration, fueling far-right calls for an iron fist and Donald Trump-style threats of mass deportation. Polling stations open at 8 a.m., correspondent saw, and Chileans have 8 hours to vote for president and members of parliament. Polls show the main left-wing candidate, Jeanette Jara, a 51-year-old communist running on behalf of Broad Coalition, winning Sunday's first round of voting for president. But far-right leader Jose Antonio Cast is tipped to emerge victorious in December's runoff. A sharp increase in murders, kidnapping and extortion over the past decade has sown terror in Chile, one of Latin America's safest nations. The vote is seen as a litmus test for South America's left, which has been sent packing in Argentina and Bolivia and faces a stiff challenge in Colombian, Brazilian elections next year. Outgoing center-left President Gabriel Boric, who is barred from seeking a second consecutive term, has made some strides in fighting crime. Under his watch, the murder rate has fallen 10% since 2022 to 6%, that is 100,000 people, slightly above that of United States. Meanwhile, Ecuadorians began voting also on Sunday whether to allow the return of foreign military bases and the drafting of new constitution that could give the country's Trump-friendly president more power. May this day reaffirm that democracy is exercised, honored and defended by voting, said Diana Atamayant, the president of the National Electoral Council, as she declared voting open. Now, nearly 40 million Ecuadorians will be able to vote on 4 questions that will decide how the country tackles rampant drug violence and addresses economic reforms. And that's our package on Global Update. Thanks for your time.
And back home, the federal government will create a special database for farmers, which will include the size and location of their farms to enable the identification and traceability of their produce. Minister of Agriculture and Food Security, Abubakar Kyari, who made this announcement in Maiduguri, Borno State, stated that the initiative will be implemented in partnership with the National Identity Management Commission. Musa Babaliu reports.
This is Hajia Marianguni from Maiduguri, Borno State. She is not only physically challenged, but also elderly, about 70 years old and a widow. Despite her condition, she is a farmer who cultivates approximately 20 hectares annually. I have limitations on what I can do on my farm because of my condition, but I engage youth to assist me, she says. Here, she and other farmers groups are being provided with farming tools by the federal government through the Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Food Security. Minister of Agriculture and Food Security, Abubakar Kyari, says the intervention is part of the renewed hope agenda to boost agricultural productivity by supporting smallholder farmers.
To us, it's pride that we are helping the state government in trying to uplift the livelihood of especially the resilient farmers that have gone through a lot within the past 14 years. And we just pray that they will take advantage of this gesture given extended to them by the federal government, by the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, into good use. Every individual that has received will have his name, his NIN number, phone number, and mainly for traceability and the location, geolocation of his farm.
For Hajia Mariam, she said the items provided, especially the solar-powered pumping machine, will reduce the cost of production. From Maiduguri, Musa Baba Aliyu, NTA News.
Accredited Election Observer Group Kimpact's Development Initiative has commended the bimodal voter accreditation system for functioning effectively in more than 96% of polling units and noted that accreditation was completed in under the 2 minutes in most cases. This was contained in the Observer Group's final report on the November 8, 2025 off-cycle governorship election in Anambra State. Timothy Yusuf reports.
The Accredited Election Observer Group Kimpact Development Initiative deployed 370 trained observers across the 326 wards in Anambra State. It praised INEC for uploading 98% of polling unit results to the IRF portal by midnight, describing it as an improvement in transparency. The Election Observer Group, however, expressed displeasure with what it described as high level of vote trading, and therefore called on the National Assembly to amend the law to expand officers' powers to act immediately in cases of vote buying, intimidation and obstruction.
KDI's observation underscored the urgent need for stricter enforcement of polling unit layout, improved physical arrangement that protect voter privacy, and heightened oversight by both electoral officials and security personnel.
KDI emphasized that the inconsistencies identified are minute in scale and insufficient to alter the overall outcome of the election.
Beyond vote trading, the group said it documented 35 incidents of election-related violence, including voter intimidation, clashes, ballot box snatching, and the alleged killing of a councillor in Orumba South by suspected gunmen. Timothy Yusuf, NTA News.
President Bola Tinubu congratulates the Oluwo of Iwo Land, Oba Abdulrasheed Adewale Akambi Telu I, on the 10th anniversary of his ascension to the throne of his forebears. The president joins the sons and daughters of Iwo Land, as well as friends and associates of the influential monarch, in celebrating this special occasion. In a statement signed by the Special Advisor to the President on Information and Strategy, Bayo Onanuga notes the tremendous impact and progressive streaks of Oluwo in the past decades of his ascension to the throne, particularly highlights Oluwo's unwavering commitment to Yoruba cultural heritage and revival. President Tinubu wishes Oba Akambi many more years on the throne and a continued life of impact. And that ends the news on NTA International. Thanks for watching. I am Vivian Izadevi.